So, today we're going to talk about something fascinating, the biology behind what we call borderline personality disorder. But here's the thing, we're not just going to talk about a label. No, we're going to get into what it feels like, what it's like to live with a nervous system that's, well, just tuned a little bit differently. Ready? Let's jump in.
And to help us understand this, we're going to follow the story of someone named Anna. She's a composite character from the source material. And this quote from her, wow, it really hits home, doesn't it? Anna often felt like her body had its own mind. That feeling that your body and your reactions are doing their own thing, almost without your permission. That's really at the core of what we're talking about today.
So forget a checklist of symptoms for a minute. Let's think about this as a physical experience. I want you to just imagine. Imagine your body is constantly on edge. It's overworked, it's on high alert, and the systems that are supposed to calm you down, they're just completely exhausted. It makes finding that sense of peace, that balance, feel almost impossible.
Okay, so to really get this, we're going to start with two huge systems in the body. The first is how we handle danger, our stress system. And the second is how we connect with people, our bonding system. These two are absolutely foundational. First up, let's talk about the body's stress alarm. It's called the HPA axis, and it releases cortisol. Think of cortisol as your get-ready-for-a-challenge hormone. Normally, it's pretty steady, pretty flexible, but for some folks with BPD, this whole system can get thrown way off balance. It's either stuck in the on position, like an alarm that won't shut off, or it's just completely burned out from being used too much. There's a scientific term for this. It's called allostatic overload, which is basically a fancy way of saying the system is just overloaded.
And this is exactly what Anna's talking about. You know, a small disagreement that for most people would be over and done with, for her, it left her trembling for hours. The fight was over, but her body didn't get the memo. It was still screaming, danger, danger. That's that overactivated stress response, right there. It turned the little bump in the road into a full-blown, prolonged crisis.
All right, so on the flip side of stress, you've got connection. And for that, we have oxytocin. You've probably heard of it. It's the cuddle hormone or the bonding hormone. It's the stuff that makes you feel safe and trusting with people. But here's the tricky part. The research points to the idea that for some people with BPD, this system might not be working as robustly. So closeness, something they might crave more than anything, can feel incredibly fragile, unreliable even. And Anna's story here just hits you right in the gut. A friend gives her a warm hug, something that should feel simple, safe, comforting. But for her, it brings tears, and she doesn't even know why. The very chemical that's supposed to make her feel safe is acting all sorts of unpredictable. It's a biological echo, in a way, of how confusing and unreliable relationships might have felt early on.
Okay, so we've talked stress and bonding. Now let's shift gears a bit and look at two other major players in our brain, serotonin and dopamine. These guys are basically in charge of our moods and our motivation.
Now, this next idea, this is so important. You got to really get this. When it comes to serotonin, certain genetic tweaks can give a person what the source material calls thin skin. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you put someone with this thin skin in a harsh, critical place, yeah, the emotional wounds are going to cut way deeper. But, and this is the amazing part, if you put that same person in a supportive, loving environment, that same sensitivity means they feel connection and warmth more deeply than anyone. See? It's not a bug, it's a feature. It's a trait that's just super responsive to whatever's around it.
And Anna's life is a perfect example of this paradox in action. When her partner criticized her, she felt absolutely crushed. But when he reassured her, wow, that comfort was so deep, so profound, it would stay with her for days. The lows are lower, for sure, but the highs can be so much higher.
All right, let's move on to dopamine. This is your go-get-it chemical. It's all about motivation, reward, and that feeling of satisfaction. But what happens when that system is a little off, when the signals are irregular? Well, it can be really hard to feel that steady sense of okayness, and that can create this deep, gnawing feeling of emptiness, or it can create this powerful urge to seek out intense experiences just to feel something.
Anna described her life as feeling gray a lot of the time. Just flat, gray. And that perfectly captures what that low dopamine activity can feel like. So when you see dramatic fights or sudden impulsive decisions, it's not about being a drama queen. It's often a desperate, unconscious attempt to give that dopamine system a jolt, to just break through that gray emptiness, even if it's just for a second.
Okay, we have one last system to talk about, and it's one you might not expect. We're talking about the body's own opioid system.
Yeah, you heard that right. Your body makes its own natural painkillers and comforters.
So here's the thing. What if that system is out of whack? If your brain's natural comfort delivery service is underperforming, it's going to be way harder to soothe yourself when you're distressed. It's going to be tougher to just hold on to good feelings. And this is where things get really serious. Some researchers believe this might be connected to non-suicidal self-injury, that it could be a way to physically force the release of these opioids to get some kind of relief from emotional pain that feels just unbearable.
Whew, okay. We've looked at a lot of different pieces, right? The stress system, the bonding system, serotonin, dopamine, opioids. Now let's connect all those dots. Let's see the bigger picture of what's going on here.
So let's recap. You've got a stress system that's overworked and just not steady. You've got a bonding system that can make connection itself feel really fragile. Then you throw in serotonin, which is amplifying everything, the good and the bad. On top of that, you have dopamine pathways that can leave you feeling empty and impulsive, and an opioid system that's just not delivering the natural comfort you need. When you see it all laid out like that, it starts to make sense why life can feel so intense, so chaotic, right?
Okay, so after all of that heavy science, you might be thinking, wow, that's a lot. But what's the big takeaway here? I promise you it's actually a message of incredible hope.
Because yes, biology absolutely sets the stage. Our genes, our brain chemistry, they lay the foundation. They create the sensitivities we've been talking about.
But, and this is everything, it does not write the final scene. Your experiences, your relationships, the work you do in therapy, that stuff can literally change the script. We know for a fact that systems like cortisol and oxytocin can be changed and re-regulated. This biological tuning, it is not set in stone.
And that brings us to the final, most powerful idea of all. Remember that thin skin? The very thing that makes someone so vulnerable to pain is the exact same thing that allows for incredible empathy, incredible depth, and an intense, beautiful connection with others when they're in a safe and understanding space. So here's the question I want to leave you with. What if this great sensitivity isn't a weakness to be fixed, but a superpower waiting to be understood?